I see Christmas candles on a Christmas tree.
What's all this crazy question they're asking me? This is the craziest party there could ever be. Don't turn on the lights, cause
Well, good afternoon, Joseph. How are you?
Good. How are you doing,
I'm
Father
fine.
Alex?
Father Alex. Yeah, I like that. Taking time out of your busy day to help. And we're talking, this is for us, the fourth week on Jesus eating with sinners, which it's funny. I got the idea for this series from your wife, and I imagine she's the one that brought the series to your church up in Oregon. So we're
Yep.
both indebted to her. We were out there for,
Always.
yeah, yeah, in many ways. We were out there the week of Thanksgiving, and Sunday, the 1st of December, I was at church, at your church, listening to you preach on the exact same material. So
Yeah.
thanks for helping me prep for this
Of
message.
course. Yeah. I got you.
That was nice. And it's an interesting concept, Jesus eating with sinners. And so maybe, of course, your son number 4. And
No, I'm son number 3, child number 4.
Oh my gosh, what was it like growing up in the Ackerman household, being number 3rd boy, 4th kid?
It was lovely in a lot of ways. I think that I had a very blessed upbringing for a lot of reasons. God was the center there. There's a lot of chaos for sure with being 5 kids in the house, but there's a lot of love and a lot of tenderness.
It's funny you talking about a lot of chaos and a lot of love. I sort of think that's what our church in Longmont is like, chaos and love, which is sort of funny how that works.
Yeah, having been there, I would for sure agree. Chaos and love is maybe that's just what you like to foster. And
yeah, can't help it. So Joseph, I'm going to ask you the same question that I'll be asking the people on the street. Have you ever really screwed up and needed help to be kind of brought back in again?
Yeah, for sure. Are we going to go into detail?
Thank you for being so disclosing. I mean, it's a good point. It's hard to talk about because we don't want to talk about our mistakes, and so just
not publicly, at least.
So maybe rather than getting into the detail of your latest sin, what does it feel like to have a God who doesn't just punish you for your mistakes, but brings you back? Like when you
oh my gosh,
stated, how does that feel to you?
It's incredible. I think that it's honestly is a lot easier for me to process forgiveness from God than from really myself or anybody else. I know that God considers me his kid and has a lot of grace for me. And so to me, it's not, that part is not the hard part for forgiveness. And for that, that's always the easy-ish part because I understand where God has me. And I think I have always.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know is probably not the most common thing for people, but I think that honestly, because you are my father and you are a forgiving father, that it's been modeled for me really well that God, my father, would also really care about me and more care that and be really happy that I was apologizing in the first place than angry.
Right. He's already good. It is interesting how when we screw up, it's not only against God, but it tends to be against people as well. And how sometimes that's the harder one is to go to the person. And
yeah, for sure. There's that I don't remember what psalm it is, but it's the one that John Foreman sings about, the against you and you alone have I sinned. That, but like you said, that's not always the case, and most of the time it's not, because even though the really when it comes down to it, the sin is against God, what our actions affect a lot more than just God, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, that's not always the case, and most of the time it's not, because even though the really when it comes down to it, the sin is against God, what our actions affect a lot more than just God, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it seems like they always affect people, and maybe that's what's harder. There's another John Foreman song when he's with Switchfoot that I was just thinking of. You Haven't Lost Me Yet. Do you know that song? He talks about, to me, it's a confessional song to his wife. You've got teary eyes, I've got reasons why. And he just gets into, what my favorite line is, I feel like I'm an apparition's pet, but you haven't lost me yet. And
Brilliant.
like he's so far gone that he just is like some ghost is like dragging him around like a pet, but you haven't lost me yet. And that's a restoration song as well. So let's get into John 21. Set the stage for us.
Peter has denied Jesus 3 times. That's really one of the last interactions, or that was the last interaction before Jesus died. And then of course, at this point, Jesus has been resurrected, and this is one of his first interactions with Jesus. And so we see that he's already he's failed. He's doubting himself. He's completely wrecked. He's not the leader of the church that we come to know him or see him as before. He's at a really low place. I would say he's at his rock bottom for sure. We just see at the beginning, he immediately is like, well, I'm going to go back to what I remember, what I knew of myself before. I'm going to fall into what was comfortable, and I'm going to go back and fish. Like, come on, everybody else, let's go fish. And even in there, we see he still is a leader because everybody else is like, okay, let's go follow Peter.
Yeah, kind of like the following the rabbi thing didn't work out. So I guess we'll just fish again. Plus, we have to make a living still.
Yeah.
While you were describing the betrayal, I thought about, I don't know if it's in John or one of the other gospels, where he literally sees the face of Jesus being taken across the courtyard at the third denial. And so
yeah, he turns and like makes eye contact with him, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that, yeah.
So his
that was John.
Last face to face probably with Jesus is literally after he said it.
Yeah.
And who knows what the face of Jesus looked like. But whatever it was not pleasant for Peter.
Yeah, because that's when he turned and ran away and wept, right? So that at that point he exits the story, and then because I mean, can you imagine, like, you just did something horrible to God, like that's when it's against him and him alone, right? Yes, he sinned, and that was completely against Jesus, and he sees him and he makes eye contact with him. He realizes, because also the rooster crowed, right? So as the rooster crowed, then Jesus turns and looks at him, and so he realizes, like, he's not who he thought he was. He thought he was the person that was going to follow Jesus into prison and even death. That's what he says right after Jesus tells him that he's going to deny him. He's like, no, I would never. And so he sees who he really is.